little differently in that I'm going to dwell perhaps a little bit on some of the interesting little sidelights to the foundation years. I welcome you all here as part of that foundation of Mansfield High School. I came here as head of the HES, 144 students, and it was a great year for me, but we set out to try and do something in sport. Bill Stevens, who had a sports shop down near Bockery, said to me, you know, what's got to happen with this school is it's got to win something. We've never won anything. And we won a game when we were HES, and that was the 1961 cricket. The team led by Ross Parsons. Norm Waters was the wicket-keeper. Ken Marsden, who's here tonight, bowled endlessly wide of the leg stump to stop Alexandra scoring a goal. And we stopped them, and we won, and the ball was melted by those students, and at the 25th anniversary the school asked me, what the heck's this ball? And I had to fill them in, and that was the starting point of something big. We became a high school. Keith Hollingsworth contacted me and said, look, can you send me a photo of all the students from their year levels, and would you put their names in, please? So I sent that to him, and he came up and met us, dapper little man, fancy waistcoat, enormous energy, just bubbled. Any rate, who had a year before been in the same school as these youngsters, were there applauding also. The school was on its way. Then Keith Hollingsworth took over. It was athletics. That was the next big change. And did they work? Relay trials, running. We had a couple of stars. Claire and Alison led the way, but there were lots and lots of others. When it came to sports, we did extremely well. When it came to relays, we won 6 out of 8. And that was the training for the Hollingsworth era. We won the athletics. And suddenly this school was on its way. But associated with this was a sense of pride straight away engendered in our school. And that sport was just most important. I recall Bruce Adams, perhaps a little bit under-recognised, but Bruce won the high jump, 5'2", won the broad jump, 17'6", and set a record in both events. And there were many, many other achievements. The school had debuted, the school was on the way. Hollingsworth had an enormous sense of pride. We then went for state titles, and we took around 30 students to regional and then state levels. Of course, Alison won a state championship in that same year. It was quite remarkable, the sense of achievement that was going on. It was a time of real thrill, but there were also a lot of other things. We all, as teachers, had to wear gowns. Now, the primary staff laughed at this, because we were still in the primary school. We were in St John's Hall, couple of rooms, 3 classes operating in St John's at once. It was hard work teaching in that environment. We didn't get into the high school, you might remember, till mid-1963, 18 months after the school was built. So there we were in our gowns, and Keith Hollingsworth had the view, if it's good enough for Melbourne High School and good enough for University High School, it's good enough for Wangaratta High School. And that really summed up his basic tenet on education. It was good enough, we'll do it. And so we were all in gowns. It was a challenging time in many ways. And we had, as far as swimming athletics is concerned, dominated for 3 or 4 years, and then we dominated cricket. The marching that was talked about earlier was coached by Keith Llewellyn. Now Keith, and I'll deal with some of the characters in the school. Keith was a character. He actually had been a patrol officer in New Guinea. And that's not an easy thing in the 50s to be involved, going out, leading native people out and doing geology work in New Guinea. He looked at a bit of a rag tag. His jacket was normally a bit of a hole. Those jumpers were a bit threadbare, and his tie didn't quite fit. But he brought to that school something rather special. He was a geologist, and Mansfield High School had about the 3rd highest number of students undertaking geology in the state, and the results were excellent. He was able to take students to Melbourne University and mix with geologists down there. Never let us forget that a teacher like Keith Llewellyn played a big part in the academic achievements. A number of photographs in the staff room of natives who were wearing penis gourds. Now the natives had these dry gourds, which they put on the front of them in the appropriate place, and photographs were taken. And Keith had this fascinating little sense of humour, so he showed it to the boys. We all had a little laugh. Then he put them on the table and just let them sat back. Now, Mrs. Campanella came out, picked up the photo, and you could see the red going up. His Cox came over, and you could see exactly the same result. Llewellyn sat in that corner and giggled away. By the way, can you remember those winning teams that we had would come back and we had the dinners, and Lynton Llewellyn cooked those marshmallow cakes, every bit of 3 to 4 feet wide, with the whole team on the cake. And we enjoyed those, and then the team leaders coached that team spirit, just continue to do those. There was another character in the school called Stig Backlund. Swedish. Couldn't play football, couldn't play cricket, but this young man learned how to play. For the first footy match, he came out and tackled everybody around the neck and threw them to the ground with enormous vigour. We talked to him and managed to get him into a sort of cricket rules, football rules. He then took up cricket. Now, from somebody, say, 14 or 15 taking on cricket, quite a remarkable thing, that within 18 months, he was our opening bowler. He was a frightening bowler, because one wasn't terribly sure where the ball was. And in fact, that cricket team was a very good cricket team. Richard Watson, who was probably one of the best bowlers that I've ever seen at schoolboy level. But Stig Backlund was a shot bowler in many ways. He took 5 for 11 against Broadford, 6 for 34 against the mighty Alexander. And it was a wonderful team. And we had enormous success with that team. The outdoor club, and we've got Bill Gibb here today, magistrate, one of the chiefs, caught 34-5 redfish if one of the boys trips out onto Lake Hill, probably a bigger achievement. Tom Foots is here, as a great fishermen of those days. They were great days where we had to limit the number of boys to 40 who went out. One teacher, they fished together, they never ever had a single problem with that. Talking about the athletics went on. I see Robert Lagan over there. Robert won 5 events at the middle school athletics meeting. In 1 year, he and his brother, they won 9 events between. You know, those sorts of things are forgotten. We've got them in the book, and I hope you'll enjoy reading about the achievements of our students. We have a major confrontation, and I have to fill you in on this. We had Mr. Hoop Gibson, the local theatre proprietor, used to drive his vehicle around the school with ads on it about the films that were coming at that point of time. And I happened to be in the office one day when that occurred, and Keith suddenly jumped up. This can't last, can't go on. So out Keith tore onto our road in his gown and stood there and brought his arms up, and he looked just like a bat standing in the middle of the road. And he confronted Hoop Gibson, and Hoop never returned. We were left without any advertising from the film picture theatre. I had my most disturbing event with a young man by the name of Ken Wang. Ken was one of our outdoor club boys who I had educated in fishing and so forth. I thought, what a fine young man this fellow is. I was invited out to Nancy and Corry's for tea with Gord one night and to go fishing with Ken Lynton. Out we went, it was getting dark, and wondering what we were going to do, to go fishing. When it was fully dark, Ken said to me, well, come on, you did bring clothes to wade. The Broken River was just beside us, so out we went. He had a sugar bag with him, we got out to the river. The next thing he pulls a couple of 22 rifles out of his sugar. We then proceed to walk along the river, and bang, we picked up 2 or 3, he picked up 2 or 3 fish. I got back and I suddenly realised my education of students wasn't all it should be. Paper. High school senior master caught shooting fish in the Broken River. I think King got the message. I was never invited again. That was Corrie Latham was a marvellous chap. We struck him in Swan Reach and Bedstone. He used to wander around the field days there. He bred wonderful sheepdogs, and he'd have 15 or 20 sheep. There'd be 3,000 people at the field day, and he'd just walk through with the sheepdogs, just looking after them. No worries at all, under full control. And Nancy, of course, was a very, very fine artist. I had a an email from Ruth Pullen, who asked me at the moment. Ruth has had a distinguished career. She's a PhD. She did a National Gallery exhibition of Eugene Wangaratta. She's a very, very highly respected person. I had this lovely email in which she said, Mr. Barr, you taught me economics, and I do remember your teaching of economics, but more I remember your reading of C.J. Dennis in one of our economic lessons. I did have a habit to read C.J. Dennis. You might remember her name, story. You could have knocked me down with half a brick. Fellows in Australia, blokes and coves and coots, get a bloody move on, shoot your bloody boots. Many students might remember the readings of C.J. Dennis. Exams were introduced under Hollingsworth, they would have been, regardless of the principal, and right down the exams. These very big boys were wonderful in exams. And 8 Purcell was one of them. And we had a full exam room. We were in the new school, full exam room, year 7 to year 11 at that time. Everybody quiet. And Hayden puts up his hand and says, "Mr. Barr." "Yes, Hayden, what is it?" "My first cap's ruled on the wrong side."
That was Brendan. That was Brendan.
Brendan! I've maligned Hayden all these years. Brendan Purcell. Because he had the sheet turned around the wrong way. And by that time, the whole of the exam room was laughing. Really just about destroyed the whole thing. At the end of 64, we lost King Thomas. Now this was an interesting one, because when the schools opened in 63, Ron Reid, who's the secondary inspector of schools, director of schools, had said to Keith, "Keith, I hope you can keep Mansfield High School. You're doing a wonderful job." And Keith came to me and said, "Oh, look, I'm pretty right. Up the school. It's going up to Class 1 next year." Well, it came out, and suddenly I'm at the cricket nets, and Keith comes down and says, "I've resigned." "What?" "I didn't get the school, so I've resigned." And it was quick as that. He went to Carey and set up his own coaching college, which became his business. An enormous coaching college, marvellously successful. He also came up with a betting scheme, which he published in the Sun, double page in those years, on betting, how to do it. He was a remarkable man. I'll just read you just a little tale years of Mansfield High School. On opening up the package, I sat down straight away and read every word. "I'm so pleased you've recorded it all the familiar names of those young, enthusiastic students. I can still see them in my mind. It's hard to believe that some of them are, of course, in their 60s. I, like both of you, also look back on our Mansfield years as very happy times. I spent time reading to Keith. I'll take the book down tomorrow and read parts of it to him. Keith still knows me and his little dog Marshall, but there's no conversation, apart from a nod, yes, no, but best of all, I can still get a little smile. He's just King, who can no longer hold conversation. He's suffering dementia. And that wonderful mind, that wonderful energy, there's a photo in the book of Keith at this time. Just before concluding on those years, I must confess I had to say something to Phil Facey today. At that point in time we had a cricket match, the staff versus student, and I ran Bill out. But I did it that lousy way. They call it man cat. Bill, I was bowling and Bill took 2 or 3 paces down the wicket. And instead of turning my arm over, I lifted the bail. I'll always recall Bill's face as he walked off the oval, dragging a bat behind him. It was just about how could you have done it to me? Publicly, I apologise to Bill. It was year 12, and she got one of those diseases where she couldn't mix with people, whether it was mumps or whatever, I don't know. So Gretel and I decided, well, we can't leave her up there, we can't miss out. we'll go up and take the exam up each day. You do one day, I'll do the next day, so off we went. The day I went up there, it was bitterly cold. And there was a big fire going, and in front of the fire were boxes of chickens, squawking away there. And in the room next door, Leslie sat and did the exam. While we sat, drank tea, ate scones and jam and cream and cake, and then brought the exam papers down. Leslie achieved first class honours in geography and economics, and second class honours in geology.
She had 2 days to do it, Barry. Come on.
The first student to get a first class honour in the school was Bruce Beecham. The first student to complete a university degree from the school was Ian Aitken. And then there were all the follow-ons. Now, I'll leave it there because I think I've told you quite a few of the stories associated with the school. But above all, there was an enormous enthusiasm there. I will conclude by saying everything's not quite right inclusively. He wagged school when it was a HES, and I picked him up walking past the school, quite rightly. We seemed to get over that all right, after a little bit of a talk. And then he did something lovely. He brought around one day to our house a kangaroo tail. He'd been out shooting and dropped it in. Now, we love food such as that. I was at duck shooting, all the rest of it. I had wonderful of a lad to do that. Anyway, I headed off to school. Dawn said, "What do I do?" I said, "Well, you take the skin off it, and then we'll boil it. We'll make the soup." I had a plaintive call from Dawn saying, "Listen, I've taken the skin off, and there are all these little white worms." So I said, "Well, the best thing to do is bury it." Thanks, Bruce. Most appreciated. I must say that in 1968, the final year of the Cracknell years, in this room, there was a gathering of students, the foundation students. Nothing like the number that's here today. But the program was delightful, and Alan Cracknell was chairman. The Loyal Toast was proposed by Rowan Deere. I proposed the toast to the ex-students. Ian Aitken responded. Hollingsworth proposed the toast to the school, and Snowy Aitken responded. And that was in '68. So we're gathering again in the same place. Many of you would be the same students who are gathered here today. It's been a great pleasure to be here with you. I found the fact that there wasn't such a gathering earlier on to be something that I just didn't like, because when we're a bit older, we have another 15 years on, and they have a 75th anniversary, it's going to be a lot harder for us to have a gathering like this. And you have shown just how much the gathering has been worth it. Thank you very much. It's been a great